Hello, I'm going to talk to you today about Haman and his 10 sons and who they represent. In their death, they represent the bronze serpent. This is why Jesus died and in 3 days he was resurrected uh, to show us the formula that we need to get rid of sin in our life. Now, the Jews report that the 10 sons of Haman were hanged on a single pole. Uh, you remember the bronze serpent that Moses made? He made it because the Israelites were complaining too much, and they wanted God to stop the serpents from biting them. Well, he didn't get rid of the serpents because they represent Satan and his demons, but he made this bronze serpent and he hung it on a pole. And if you looked at it, you wouldn't die. That was the basis of that prophecy, was that if you looked at it, you wouldn't die. Jesus died on a cross, and he himself said that he would be. He pointed to this one and said that he was representing the bronze serpent, and he does, and a little with a little more detail, because he died, and in 3 days he was resurrected. There's a lot of prophecy there. It's more than just what that he. It's more than just like I say here. It's a formula. It's not a password. If you know Jesus, it doesn't mean you automatically be born again. It's a formula. There's a formula there that is brought out for us in the book of Esther. Esther talks about the Haman and his uh, crew, his clan were going to kill all the Jews, and Esther, being the queen, is the only one that could go before the king and plead for their lives. And so she commanded Mordecai and all the Jews that were in Susha to go on a 3 day fast. No food and no water. This is critical because no food and no water means that in 3 days without food and water, you're this close to dying. Uh, if you look at the prophecy of Jesus when he was buried in the tomb, he was in there for 3 days and 3 nights, and then he was resurrected. If you look at, there's a lot of prophecies. One time that Jesus was left behind after the uh, the festival of Passover, and the family took off and they forgot Jesus. Well, 3 days later, they found him in the temple. This represents it's more than just coincidence. Things are written in the Bible to show you something. After 3 days without food and water, now you can get rid of Satan and his demons or his little cohorts or however you want to call them. They represent the evil that we inherited from Adam and Eve that still isn't gotten rid of, because you have to follow the formula to get rid of them. It's more than just saying a few words with a password that automatically you're born again. No, you have to die. Uh, right here in In John 3, John 12:24 says, I tell you the truth, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. The kernel referred to here is somewhat more, there's more to it than just a single kernel. The kernel in your computer is the kernel in a computer program that is the core of the computer operating system with complete control over everything. If it is infected, the computer doesn't work. It does everything wrong. That's what's wrong with us. The kernel inside of us has been infected. And now, just like a computer or many other electrical operating systems, they tell you to unplug it and wait 1 minute and then plug it back in. And it reboots and becomes, it gets rid of the problem. The kernel is a little bit more. You have to unless you're a computer genius and know a lot about computers, then you can completely wipe out the memory and reboot it with the information that the kernel possesses, and get rid of all the different things that are infecting the computer and start over again. This is a little bit different than people are used to. That all you have to do is say a few words and you're born again. There's a little bit more to it than that. That's why Jesus used the kernel, because the kernel is infected. It has to fall to the ground and die. Then it can produce again. Uh, there's more to it than just saying a few words to be born again. And the circumcision of the heart. Circumcision is a ritual that was brought up by the Jews as cutting the flesh away and from the penis, and it becomes cleaner. You become a cleaner person after that. It's true. It's a medical fact that circumcision is good for you. Uh, the circumcision of the heart. That's what this is about. These 10 demons, these 10 sons of Haman represent the sin in you that's inside of you. Because uh, it's very unusual that in the book of Esther, uh, these 10 kids were already dead. They were dead and laying on the ground, and Esther asked the king if he could hang them again. And the next day, tomorrow, she says, tomorrow. The tomorrow that doesn't quite, why not right now? No, she said tomorrow, because that was a clue for us today that we need to hang these 10. There's a problem with this one, and this. Well, this one represents us today. This is a medical emblem that represents healing. Until you do this, you're not going to get healing. The problem with this one is the Jews ended up, it became a worship item, and they had to destroy it in 2 Kings 18:4. They had to destroy that symbol because they started worshiping it. This has become the same problem. Now people, if you don't have a cross around your neck, uh, there's a cross on top of the church. There's a cross in the sanctuary. it has become a thing of worship now. Instead of what Jesus wanted it to do, point us to this formula that is brought out for us in Esther. I'll talk about it a little more. For right now, I'm trying to keep the videos down to 10 minutes because that's basically the attention span of most people today.